Hello! Thanks to my recent obsession with Regency core, we are making yet another Bridgerton-inspired dress. Today, though, we are adding a little twist and making it a Bridgerton x Cinderella cosplay. And in this case, we are going to be making it for a trip that's happening next week to Austria, where we are heading back to Admont Abbey and Vienna to go to the same locations we went exactly 1 year ago, when I made my other Cinderella dress. That being said, let's go ahead and cover the fabrics we're using. I've been scouring so many different thrift stores and outlets online trying to find material for this, and so it is a little bit hodgepodge, but I think we'll be able to pull it off. So let's go ahead and go through the fabrics we're using today, and then we will go over the design, and then finally we will cut the pattern pieces out and begin. So let's go ahead and get started. So the plan is that I'm going to have sheer puffy sleeves, a wrapped bodice, which will make more sense when I explain the patterns in a minute, and then I will be having long side drapes and then a fairly narrow skirt. Now that we've covered what our design looks like, let's go ahead and cover the patterns. So the patterns we are using is S9577 by Simplicity. If you don't recognize it, it's the same pattern I used for my prom dress. We're specifically using it for the skirt, and then we're also using the baby doll dress bodice pattern from moodpatterns.com. Now that we've covered the design and the patterns, let's go ahead and go a little more detail into the fabric we're using. So for the main body of the dress, we are using this shiny silk sheet. And then for the side drapes, we are using this multitude of sheer white curtains. Finally, for that decorative lacy feature that you see on the bodice, we are using one of these many different lace options. I have yet to decide which one we're using, and then whatever scraps we have will go onto the sleeves. So that being said, let's go ahead and cut our fabric out, and then from there we will get started on this super exciting project. Okay guys, so here is what the dress layout looks like. Now I may add some trim to the side drapes eventually, but I'm not sure yet. So now that I've gone ahead and cut all the materials out, we're gonna go ahead and start working on the skirt. Okay guys, so our timeline has scrunched down significantly, which is not surprising, but the plan of action is that we are going to go ahead and sew the underskirt together first, and then from there we will go ahead and sew the side drapes together, and then finally we will attach the side drapes on top of the underskirt and then move on to the bodice. So there may be a little bit less documentation on this process just because I'm running out of time rather quickly, but we'll try our best. And whatever you miss on this one, I am making a secondary Bridgerton dress that hopefully I will post later this summer, that you can check for a little bit more detail on the skirt process. So I finished sewing the entire underskirt, and she's pretty long, but I think she'll be able to be shortened once I attach her to the bodice. So now my plan is to go ahead and trim the side drapes with some lace. Okay guys, so I finished attaching the side drapes together, and I realized pretty quickly that attaching the skirt together is probably not the smartest decision. Before I sew the back up together, I'm actually going to go ahead and start working on sewing the bodice. Okay guys, so here's our bodice layer. So we have two side backs and then we have two center fronts. And they're layered according to how they're going to be sewn. So we have the lining on the bottom, and then we have the main fabric, and then we have the overlay fabric. So I think what I'm going to do first is baste the overlay fabric to the main fabric, and then once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and sew the lining together. Okay guys, so this is the lining pieces and then this is the outer bodice pieces. Now I will be adding lace to trim the center of the bodice eventually, but first we're going to go ahead and attach the sides of the back pieces to the sides of the front pieces, and then from there we will repeat the same steps with the overlay bodice pieces, and then finally, once I've attached the lace, we will go ahead and put both pieces together, flip them inside out, sew them, and then flip them back right side out, and the bodice should be complete. This is the bodice flipped inside out, and then this is the bodice that is yet to be flipped. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this one out too, and then I will go ahead and sew a finishing seam along the edges before we attach the two pieces together. So here is what our bodice looks like pinned. Now she's a little bit short in the back, so I'm going to need to add a panel when I'm doing the back. So for the back closures, we're going to use this scrap lace. And then for the actual closure part, we're using these hooks and eye trim that I had. Now this failed the last time I used it, but I have hope that if I make the bodice a little bit looser than I usually will, it'll fit me better and it won't burst open when I wear it. So this is the bodice completely attached. Here's what our back looks like. I think it turned out really nice. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the skirt. And then once that's done, all we have left to do is sew the back of the skirt up and then finally attach the sleeves. Here is the bodice added to the skirt, and I think it looks great, but I feel like the waistline's missing a little bit of Maddie pizzazz, so I think I'm going to figure out something to add right here just to highlight the skirt a little bit, and then I'm going to sew the back together and we'll get started on the sleeves. It's sleeve time, and I'm going to go ahead and take you down to the floor to show you what it looks like. Okay, so these are all the sleeve pieces. I have the sleeve cuff, and then I have 3 layers for the sleeves. So it's 2 of the sheer and 1 lace. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and baste around all the layers. And then from there, I will go ahead and attach the sleeve cuff. And then finally, we will attach it to the dress. Guys, I have a little story to tell you. My sewing machine broke. Now, I've had this machine for about 8 years, and she's been fairly trusty, but a relative pain in the butt for certain things like thread tension. Usually the foot will act up, or the plates will act up, and so in this case, I have no clue what exactly happens. Somehow in the machine, I'm still looking to see what's going on with it. The wheel completely jammed. Now it's not jammed when it comes to the bobbin, but it is completely and utterly jammed when it comes to the sewing foot, and so I ended up ripping it apart, and I have a huge pile of random nuts and bolts on my desk. But yeah, so I will be hand sewing to the best of my ability the rest of this costume, because tomorrow we are headed to Austria, which is great. And instead of finishing this costume with a fully functional machine and having my stuff packed, I am now hand sewing this costume with a broken machine and have yet to pack my stuff. So wish me luck. I am currently sewing the last trim onto the sleeve. And once that's done, I will go ahead and sew the sleeve sides together, and then finally I will attach it to the bodice, and that should be everything. I adjusted some of the bodice earlier, hoping it would fit me a little bit better, but I did it a little bit too tight, so I'm going to need to let out some of the darts that I made. But once that's done, we should be completed with this project. So bear with me a little bit if it looks a little bit confusing with the format. on this video, but that's your little update from there. And I'm gonna go ahead and press on sewing and see how much I can get done tonight so that my dress is completed by tomorrow. Well, I finagled my younger sister's sewing machine, and it's the morning of. We're gonna try leaving in about 30 minutes, but I'm desperately trying to complete these sleeves and fix the darts because I sewed them a little bit too harshly. But I'm gonna go ahead and try to complete as much as I can, and then we'll be ready to head to Vienna. Hi guys, if you enjoyed this video, please like or subscribe. I have been doing YouTube for about a year now, and my goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, but I can't get there without your help. So please, if you really did enjoy this, subscribe and look at my new videos that are coming out. I have a ton of really exciting Disney-inspired and general summer-related content, and I hope you enjoyed. So without further ado, let's go to the final result.